Ed, we have a mostly cloudy sky. It's 24, and the snow is covering much of Minnesota and eastern South Dakota, some of it light, some heavier. Twin Cities picking up, is expected to pick up several inches of snow. Traveling I-94, you'll start to hit the snow southeast of Fergus Falls, it appears, and then eastern South Dakota, and again central, southern, and much of Minnesota extending up into the northeastern section of the state. Fargo-Moorhead, we do not expect any snow. Fargo-Moorhead, once again, it's 24, mostly cloudy. Paul Jurgens, News Radio, KFGO.
The Mighty 790 KFGO, good afternoon. Those astute television historians will recognize the theme from Emergency. Randy Mantooth, Kevin Teig, Squad 51, See the Man, Wilshire in 25th. It goes back a few years, boy. Was that 1970?
Again, before I was born.
Yeah, oh, thanks. Yeah, thanks.
You're old.
KFGO time is 4. What'd you say?
I said, you're old.
I'm coming over there. Don't you guess my age and my weight?
Yeah.
The hard way. KFGO time is 4:11. Good afternoon and welcome back to The Drive. It's great to have you with us. I'm Dan Michaels. He's Paulie Lyons. Paul Jurgens, you just heard in the KFGO News Center. More news at the bottom of the hour on the Mighty 790 KFGO. Well, there's always fire news going on, and we have decided a couple months back that once a month we would check in with Chief Steve Dirksen of the Fargo Fire Department, and we call it checking in with the chief, latest things that are on the minds of the guy in charge of the Fargo Fire Department. The chief is actually under the weather, and Ryan Erickson joins us. He's the fire marshal for the Fargo Fire Department. Hi, Ryan. How are you today?
Hey, good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for stepping in. Since the chief told me, I don't think I'm telling tales out of school, but the chief's got COVID virus, him and his wife, huh?
Yeah, it's definitely going around right now, as we've all heard.
Yeah, and he has no idea where he picked it up at. He was sounding pretty tough. He equated it when I was talking to him today, Ryan, as to he had pneumonia a couple of years ago. He said it feels just like that. Oh, my gosh. That's heavy. So we wish the chief and his wife the very best here today as we go on with checking in with the chief, with Ryan Erickson, the fire marshal for the city of Fargo, the Fargo Fire Department. So, Ryan, tell everybody, what is your job description? What's the fire marshal do?
Sure. So like you said, I'm fire marshal. I get to serve in that role with the Fargo Fire Department. It's an assistant chief position. And what I do is I oversee the Fire Prevention Bureau for Fargo, and that consists of 6 deputy fire marshals, and they're really the ones out there doing the work, issuing permits, doing the inspections, and then digging out those fire scenes to determine origin and cause. Our focus is really to reduce emergencies, the rate of emergencies in the city, and then also when it happens, the severity of them.
That has got to be absolutely fascinating to determine where a fire started from, the materials that were done. How do you determine those kind of things, Ryan?
Well, it does take a lot of training. We follow a scientific process and guides that are nationally recognized, and you really got to figure out where it started first, and then what you do then after that is look at what your possible ignition sources are in that area.
Do you take chemical samples and have them diagnosed and things like that?
Yeah, if needed, we'll work with the state lab to send out samples to look for example, flammable liquids or stuff like that.
Is it possible for someone to set a fire and for you guys not to know that it was set?
I'd really like to say no to that. Well, we use the same process. Scenes can be very difficult at times, but that's why we're following a standard to try to figure that out every time. Again, our whole mission really is to try to put ourselves out of business with the fire department and
Sure.
reduce those emergencies. So that's really the big reason you're looking for that. And if crime's involved, obviously we bring in police to help us with the criminal aspect of it.
If this sounds fascinating to you, if you're listening to this and you're not sure what you're going to be doing with your life, or you've got kids that are not sure what they're going to do, this is certainly a fascinating a job that Ryan has, and all the jobs with the fire department are. And we're going to ask Ryan at the end of our interview how one becomes a member of the Fargo Fire Department and a firefighter in general before we're done, so don't go anywhere. There's a number of issues going on fire-related in Fargo, and Ryan, the one that I just I roll my eyes every time I hear it. Every time I hear there's an apartment on fire, I automatically think that, okay, somebody didn't put their cigarette out again correctly. They put it in a plastic container or something. And to my great astonishment, I'm right, seemingly 60 or 70% of the time. We just can't seem to get the word out that if you're going to smoke on a balcony, whether it's an apartment or anywhere else, that you need to put your cigarette out properly. And it's just that message doesn't seem to be getting through.
Yeah, so a couple, we're consistent with the nation when it comes to cause of fire, and it's cigarettes and cooking. The problem we have around here, just like you said with the balconies, is that when the cigarettes are put out on a balcony, we got to be really careful about how we're doing that, and we need to be using a metal can with sand in it and making sure that they're pinched out and stubbed out and put into that sand. And then if you're getting where they're accumulated, then you soak them in water and then you can dispose of them. The big key here is that a plastic can with potting soil just does not work. When we get a windy day and that relative humidity drops down, it allows that ember inside that potting soil to start to burn that organic material, and that's where we really see those take off.
As Fire Marshal Ryan Erickson, Fire Marshal for the Fargo Fire Department, is joining us today when we're checking in with the chief. As a fire marshal, that must be a very easy fire to determine its origin, huh?
Yeah, I mean it depends on how it occurs, but when they're outside, they do leave a pattern that's more distinct. And again, we're following the same process on all of them, but we're looking for that. We're looking for containers and that type of thing. And it is weather driven, and we've really tried to focus our message so that we're putting out that message to clean them up, especially when we see days where we can see that coming. And the Weather Service is really good about letting everybody know when you have critical fire weather. And so we're trying to send that message out to say, hey, these next 2 days, you got to clean up these cigarettes because the weather conditions are prime for them to take off.
Are we basically talking about Operation Butt Out, or is that something different?
Yeah, so Operation Butt Out, that's kind of a fun way that it actually kind of came out of Bismarck, but kind of a fun way to push that message. It looks almost like a no parking sign, but again, what we're pushing what we just talked about, putting those cigarettes out and then cleaning them up.
I'm getting signals from my producer in here in the studio as well. Now, beyond the fires on balconies, etc., one of the other things we wanted to talk about is the fact that you mentioned cooking being a big source of fires, Ryan. Ryan Erickson, Fargo Fire Department Fire Marshal, is joining us. Ryan, cooking is a big thing, as you mentioned, but especially as we're coming up on Thanksgiving, my initial thought goes to those deep fat fryers that people are cooking their turkeys in. You can go out on the internet and watch people do this, and there's all sorts of videos of people starting their garages on fire.
Yeah, so, and interestingly, Thanksgiving, according to the NFPA, is the leading day of the year for home fires involving cooking equipment. Like you mentioned, those deep fat fryers, they're a very visual way that you see that. In fact, we have a video on our website that you can watch where the fire from one of those turkey fryers takes off. And the issue there is you just got to make sure we're not filling those full of oil, we're not cooking where they shouldn't be, and absolutely never a frozen turkey going into that.
Is that the key? Why not a frozen turkey? Do they explode?
So that moisture into that oil, it's the same problem if you had a pan on your stove in the house where you have an oil fire. You can't put it out with water because that water will instantly boil and send that oil flying everywhere while it's involved with fire. And so it'll really throw that fire all over the place.
Well, how do you put a fire like that out?
Keep your lids handy when you're cooking in the kitchen. Baking soda's away, or if you have a fire extinguisher, that's also another way you can extinguish it, but just not water. When
we were talking earlier today, you were mentioning timers while you're cooking. How does that help prevent fires?
Yeah, so interestingly, cooking fires, the main reason we have a cooking fire is because the cooking's going on unattended. And so obviously everybody's got a lot of things going on and everybody has things in their mind. So oftentimes what happens is you'll start cooking and then you get sidetracked. So the big thing there is just if you could use a timer to remind yourself to get back to check those, and then that way a pot doesn't get left on the stove long enough where it could flash that oil, and it reminds you to come back to it. And most of the stoves have them built in today, and pretty much every cell phone has a timer in it now, so we have quick access to them if you just remember to set them.
It is amazing how easily you lose track of time. I mean, anybody who's tried to melt butter in their microwave understands how easy it is to lose track of time when something's on there, because pretty soon you have a bowl of butter soup in your microwave. And the same thing when you're cooking stuff. You go to check on the kids, put the wash into the dryer or whatever, and by the time you come back, you could have a problem like that. So great idea. And, with the COVID going on, I think right after Halloween, everybody's minds went to Christmas right away, Ryan. A lot of people are putting up Christmas decorations, and that includes Christmas lights, which is another source of fires breaking out.
Yeah, and fires, the thing with the Christmas lights or any holiday lights, just we don't want to be overloading our electrical system, so use your surge protectors. When you're hooking up lights, follow the manufacturer's instructions. 3 strings of lights used to always be the old rule. I know with a lot of the LED lights now you can do a little bit more, but just check the labels on those so we're not overloading them. The other thing that we just wanted to mention is when you're putting those up, pay attention to your ladder safety, watch what's overhead of you, and be careful of ice and that type of thing so we're not slipping and falling off roofs either.
Do you have an opinion as to whether a real tree or fake tree, does it matter to you from a fire prevention standpoint?
With the real trees, we just got to make sure we're watering them. That's the thing is that, and then once they start drying out, they need to leave the house. You don't want a dried out tree sitting in the corner of your living room. Anybody
who's lit one of those on fire, I like to save mine and burn them in the spring. When you get a fire going out in the backyard and stuff in your fire pit. Boom. Yep. Boy, those things go up fast, don't they, when they're all dried out? And on the way out, Ryan Erickson, Fargo Fire Department, he's fire marshal for the city of Fargo. Ryan, if someone's been listening to this and wants more information on how do you become a firefighter, first of all, Ryan, why did you become a firefighter? And tell us how we joined the fire department.
Well, so interestingly, a lot of us have come here from many different paths. We have a careers section right on our page that'll take you through what a typical day is. It has our hiring requirements on there. And interestingly, we're actually just talking about starting that process here pretty soon. So if you are interested, keep your eye on that, and then you can get an application in. And like I said, we are looking for it. You don't have to have fire experience. We want all sorts of experiences here and pretty much everybody that's in the community.
And it's a great life. I mean, you guys don't work every day. You work 24-hour shifts in the city of Fargo, and it's a great retirement plan, too.
Yep, and and the work itself is very rewarding, and that's really what makes it easy to come in every day.
Ryan Erickson, Fargo Fire Department Fire Marshal, in for Steve Dirksen today. We wish the chief the very best with his wife in recovery. And Ryan Erickson, we thank you very much for joining us with checking in with the chief today.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. Take care. KFGO time is 4:23. You're listening to The Drive on the Mighty 790 KFGO.